is set up my alternate method. Hopefully Simon will tell me it's still working. What I'm doing now, for those of you who are watching, is hitting record for a piece of software we've got called ScreenFlow, which just records whatever's happening on the screen. And it's a great way as a backup. So if something goes wrong with today's webinar, like happened last week, we've got a backup that we can use. And we often use the ScreenFlow backup instead anyway, because it's often better quality than the other service that we're using. So we'll just make sure that if I hit play again from here, that you're seeing that. So if you'll just hold on for a couple of seconds and we'll get to it. It's awesome to have you here. I'm sitting actually in Starbucks right now. I hope the sound's not too bad. Simon tells me it's all right, even though he's hearing me twice, 30 seconds apart, which is probably a little disconcerting, even with headphones on. I'm in a lovely town in the United Kingdom called Norwich, and I'm staring out the window of Starbucks sort of down into their market square, which is lovely. And anyone who's been looking at any of our social media platforms at the moment will have noticed that we've been running around looking at dragons. And if I sort of tilt my head to one side a bit, I can see a dragon from the window here, so it's really cool. The Norwich community have a thing that they do every year now, where they put have like a trail. I think last year they had gorillas around the town, and this year they have dragons. So it's pretty cool. The dragons are very cool, and it's all to raise money for our local charity, children's charity. Let me see. So, honey, did you flip out and then flip back in again? Did it go out and then back in again? Did that go out and back in again? Yeah. Okay. It looks like everything is fine. It's a little confusing for Simon to keep up with me because he is 30 seconds behind already. The noise in the cafe might be going up a little bit, but hopefully what you're hearing from me is good. I'm using just a lapel mic, which is, I hope, capturing mostly my voice and not all the other voices that are going on in the cafe. All right. And Simon says, good, I can go because it's 2 o'clock and fancy actually starting on time. How amazing. So again, I'd like to say welcome to everyone who's made it along today. I know there's a couple of new people here today, which is fantastic. We're really excited to be able to run this webinar. It's actually the last one in this series, so that is always a sense of achievement to get to the end of a series that you've created. Who am I? For those of you who don't know, I think most of you do now if you found your way here somehow, because I've made it very hard for anyone to find it, but if you have found us, my name is obviously Michelle Frost, and for the last 13 years I've been working online. In the last probably 6 years, since about 2008, I have actually been teaching local businesses how to improve their business online. Most of that has been done in person through workshops to hundreds of people at a time, as well as with just one-on-one coaching and mentoring sessions. So Simon and I decided to basically take all of this fantastic online knowledge we have and grab 3 of our children and travel the world for a couple of years, just so that we could get out and experience a bit of life and do things a little bit differently. And because it was something we dreamed about doing for a long time. And we kept thinking, well, you know, we teach all these people how to create wealth online, and, you know, we do very well ourselves. Why not actually go out and start doing the things we wanted to do? So we slowly wound up all the things we were doing in the real world, so to speak, with teaching people how to use the internet. And we hit the road about a year ago and left Australia, and we've managed to travel through Asia and quite a bit of Europe. And we're in England at the moment, and we're heading off to Italy, actually, for 10 months next week. So it's very exciting for us. We're about to move home. And somehow we've fallen into a thing called house sitting. I know you haven't joined a webinar to learn about house sitting, but house sitting has meant that we've had lots of free accommodation, and we've sort of just gone where the house sitting opportunities have come up. And in Italy, we've managed to get a 10-month house sit. So we're very excited about going and living in another culture, quite different from our Australian culture, learning Italian and sort of being in one spot now. Being in one spot for 10 months, we're thinking is going to be a lovely experience after being basically in not one spot. I think the longest time we've had anywhere might be 4 weeks, but mostly we're only in a place for 2 or 3 weeks for literally the last 12 months. So we're really looking forward to that. Not to mention our online portion of our business will be able to go ahead in leaps and bounds because we'll be stationary and be able to concentrate a little bit more. However, in saying all of that, one of the reasons we want to put on lots of training like this and to start doing more coaching online is that, you know, we are off following our dreams. We want more people to be able to do that as well. Your dream may not be to travel, it might be just to have some more cash in the bank, it might be to go on holidays more often, it might be to spend more time with your kids, it could be anything. It's a very individual thing, but often we've found that most people's dreams involve them freeing up a little bit of income so that they can achieve those dreams, not because the dreams cost money necessarily. It could just be that that gives you more time and more choice in your life if you have more of the bills taken care of. So today's webinar, which is, as I said, the last in the series, is all about how to sell your digital product. The first 3 webinars I'll flip over to the next one. The first 2 webinars, were about how to research a digital product that you could sell online, how to make sure that when you do decide on what you're going to create your digital product on, that you give it the best opportunities to survive, that it's going to be a product that people are actually looking for. It's going to serve the community, if you like, and you'll be more likely to actually sell it, which is why you're creating it in the first place. Then the second workshop, which we ran last week, that was all about creating a digital product and gave you a bunch of ways that you could create a digital product. And then today, we're going to be all about selling that digital product, which is really where the rubber hits the road, so to speak. It's all about how you're going to take that fantastic thing that you did a whole bunch of research about in workshop 1, and then we created it in workshop 2, and then we're going to sell it in workshop 3. Excuse me, which takes me back to, you can, if you were not able to be present in the workshops 1 and 2, you can actually get a copy of the recordings in the easiest way is to go to the Facebook group called Boldly Different and go and ask to join if you're not already a member, and you'll find the links to all of the workshops there. And this is actually the 3rd time now that I've run through this particular series of workshops, and they've been changed a little bit along the way as I've gone, sort of refining and things like that. But so you'll actually find a whole bunch of links in in the Facebook group. But if you'll go there, you'll find the most recent ones as well. So you'll be able to watch last week's, for example. All right. What we want to do today, though, is get you to your first dollar online, because, to be honest, that's actually the most exciting part, is to have done all of this work and then to actually make a sale online. It is a fantastic experience when you actually realise that you are heading in the right direction, that there are people who are interested in the things that you know and the things that you can produce for them online. And it also gives you quite a sense of empowerment, if you like, because you suddenly do believe that this kind of lifestyle that you're after isn't something for other people, it's actually something that you can attain for yourself as well. One thing I do want you to remember in this entire workshop, and basically in your entire life online, your business life, is that you need to remember who your ideal client is, who your ideal customer is. I've harped on and on about it in every single workshop, and this one will be no different. In fact, as you're going to be talking to him or her a lot during your career online, you really need to know these people. And I would even go to say that you really need to like them. In fact, they need to be some of your best friends, if you know what I mean. I was at a retreat not very long ago in Portugal, and it was one of the things that came up, that there was a few people there, and myself included, with some past businesses that I've had, that we didn't really enjoy the company of some of the clients we had, mostly because the businesses that we had were attracting people that were, they were clients for that business, but they weren't our ideal client. If you're going to be spending a lot of time with them, you want them to be the kind of people that you like to hang out with. So keep that in mind. And if you're not sure what I'm talking about, go back to one of the previous workshops and you'll be able to tap into exactly what I'm talking about. Before we move on, though, to actually basically doing the marketing, the advertising, the selling of your new digital product that you created last week, what we need to think about is our website. So where it's actually going to live, and we did touch a little bit on that last week. I just want you to think about it again. In this day and age, you shouldn't be trying to sell a product of yours on a platform that you don't own. So, for example, if you were selling lots of products on Facebook, because you do have the ability to put a shop inside Facebook, you're actually lending yourself to somebody else's control. This isn't a platform that you have any control over, and as you know, with Facebook, it changes all the time. They can put their fees up, they can even decide to take away the shop option, for example, in Facebook. Or, I mean, there's lots of other platforms as well. You've got the craft, there's a bunch of craft ones. It's just, Etsy, for example. And there's just lots. There's loads and loads and loads and loads of examples of places that you could be selling your product that isn't a platform that you own. In saying that, it's a really good idea that you get your own website. This may be something that scares you. There are lots of options to do it which are not very techy. Obviously, WordPress is one that I would recommend. It is, most of the websites on the internet are actually WordPress. I saw some statistic recently, something like 60 to 70% now of the web is now run on WordPress platforms, big and small. So it's no small platform at all that it used to be when we first started on the web years ago. There's also plenty of sort of free-ish platforms like Weebly and Wix, and even some of the blogging platforms like, Blogger, which is owned by Google, and WordPress.com, which is the free hosted version of WordPress. Just the only problem with those ones were the things where you don't have to really pay any money at all, as a rule, is that there's a lot of control over what you can and can't do. A lot of those platforms I mentioned are not going anywhere, and they've been around for a long time. You wouldn't have to worry so much about that. But for an ongoing fee, they'll add different bits and pieces, but they still are quite controlled, and there's lots of stuff you can't do. So if I was you, even if I had zero tech, and I, to tell you the truth, have almost no tech, thankfully Simon's right beside me most of the time and he's very good with the tech stuff. But if I have zero tech and a little funds at the moment, I would probably think about using either going and setting up something in Weebly if I wanted to do it myself, possibly, or I would head over to one of the outsourcing websites we've talked about a lot, and I would give someone a couple of $100 to put together a very simple WordPress site for me. I would go and buy the hosting at a hosting like HostGator, which is the hosting that we've used for many, many years. And I'd probably buy my domain name somewhere like Crazy Domains. And that's just what I do, well, basically every day. And so your hosting might cost you less than $90 a year, and your domain name, depending on what sort of one you're after and whether you need a .com or a .co.uk or a .com.au or any other, depending on your business, or anything from $10 a year up to say $20 a year. So it's really not a big investment for your business. All right. Having said that, let's move on and work on how we're going to sell this digital product of yours, this digital how-to product that you have created over the last couple of weeks. And I am so, so proud of you. Let me see. We'll move on to the next slide. Obviously, this is all about selling it. I have tried to break this down into a couple of different areas that we can concentrate on. So the first thing that you really need to think about when it comes to selling your product online or in any way communicating with your customers, who you know very well because we went through that before, is the copy. And copy is copywriting, and that's basically everything that you sort of say, write about your product. That's copywriting, okay? It's like the text in an ad and all of the text that might be on your website. That's what we call copy. And then we have email, and this is actually the lifeblood of most businesses. Many people have heard the saying that your business is in your list. Well, it really is, and we'll touch on that a little bit. And then we have SEO. Again, this is not a foreign acronym to most people these days, although it used to be. It stands for Search Engine Optimization, and it's really just about finding a way to get your website that has your product on it higher up in the Google searches when your potential customers or clients are looking for it. So if somebody's looking for, say, they want a knitted pattern for a whippet dog, to make a jumper for a whippet dog, and they type in how to knit a jumper for a whippet dog, and your how-to product is all about how to knit a jumper for a whippet dog, for example, if you've done your search engine optimization right, then your website should come up near the top somewhere on that first top 10. That's what that's about. But we will go into it a little bit more in a minute. And then we have PPC. Again, it's an acronym that most people who've been anywhere near the web for a little while have heard of, and it stands for pay per click. The biggest players in this field are Google and Facebook, and it literally is advertising. So every time somebody clicks on your ad, you pay based on how much you've bid and how much other people are bidding. There's a little bit more to it than that, but again, I'll go into a little bit more detail shortly. And then lastly, the thing we'll touch on today, and this is by no means an exhaustive list, there's only so much we can do in possibly a 1 hour-ish webinar. It's all about community, and in many ways, this is where the web's going into the future, especially if you want longevity in any sort of business online. You need to think about community, because it is, we did it again, I think we touched on it last week as well, but community is really important online. So building things like Facebook and LinkedIn groups as just one example, or two examples of community building online to help sell your product. Now, let's get into the details. Now, your copy. Copy is all about converting your visitor into a customer. So somebody who possibly has no idea who you are or what it is you do, how you word and make your website look will express upon them who you are and why they need to buy whatever it is that you're trying to sell. In this case, your digital product. So that, that's all about copy. A lot of people pay, a lot of big businesses pay millions and millions of dollars for really good copywriters. And the reason for that is they can make them millions and millions and millions of dollars. So they're usually worth something to 10 to 100 times the value that they pay for a good copywriter is how much a really good ad will return to them in an investment. So it's actually a skill that many people in our position, sort of small businesses, try and acquire over many, many decades, because it takes a long time to do it really, really well. If you're lucky and you're gifted with the skill of copywriting, then that's fantastic. It's something you could be selling online. It's something that people are always on the lookout for online as well. It's all about tapping into people's emotions. They need to tie into what it is that you have to offer them. Now, we're talking about a digital product, a digital how-to product in particular in this course. And what you need to do is tie, when you're writing, say, your sales page, is to tie into why this product is going to solve a particular problem they have, why it's going to be really benefit them, for example. One thing I would like you to think about is I'll put it this way. Most times when people write down all the things that are great about a particular thing that they're selling of theirs, their product, and they write down all the features. They write out why it's good. The problem is features are not what sells things to people. Emotions is what sells things to people. And the way to turn your features into a benefit or something that your potential customers or client can attach an emotion to is to, this is one technique, is to actually turn every one of the features into a benefit. So if you say to yourself, for example, if I was trying to sell a Mercedes-Benz and I said, and their seatbelts are really good, they've got A-rated seatbelts. Well, great. What does that actually mean? As a consumer, why do I care that they have A-graded seatbelts? So to turn that into a so what question, so what that they've got A-graded seatbelts? Well, that means that my child is going to be protected. It's the safest way to travel on the road. Something like that, something that tugs at my emotions, something that is based in a fact around that feature, but it pulls at my emotions. That's the benefit. The benefit is it's really safe for my children. It's the safest way for my child to be on the road in this day and age. So there you go. Try and do that. Every time you write down a feature, turn it into a benefit by saying, so what? Okay? And then think about it from the customer's perspective. Excuse me. And the other thing you should do is think about telling stories, because stories are a really good way to engage people. They're great for copy. Again, it can take time to hone your storytelling skills, but as with everything, the best way to hone those skills is to practice them. So I would start writing on a regular basis, especially if you want to use story a lot in your sales copy. And I recommend that you do give it a go, because it's one of the best ways to get your message across to people. The other thing to do is to look at your competitors' sales pages, especially your successful competitors. How are they doing it? What are they writing? What does their copy look like, for example? I was also going to share with you an example from when we started back in 2002. It was a quilting digital product that we created, and it was all about how to make money from your quilting. What I did in order to work out the copy or the sales page for this particular product was go to a product of a similar nature, but scrapbooking. So it wasn't quilting, but scrapbooking. And I copied it, but I applied my own language to it, and I applied quilting language to it, and I applied a slightly different story to it. But if you were to compare the two sales pages next to each other, they have a very similar flow. And so that's what you could do with your competitors. One thing that we call that is a swipe file. So you can go to your competitors' websites, for example, especially if they're doing really well, and you can copy and paste it into some kind of file. We would use things like Evernote. And then when you're looking for examples and inspiration to write your copy, you can go and have a look at your swipe file. It's something that every good online marketer develops after a while. Is a really good swipe file, because it stops having those blank page moments, if you like, where you think, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do here. Well, go and have a look in your swipe file. Another hint that I'd like to give you that will save you so much time, and I wish that I had done this in the beginning, is now that you're getting an idea of what copywriting is and how important it is, because it's actually going to be relevant for every single part of today's workshop. But the hint is, now you're in that writing mode, you're creating all of this written stuff. Write a bunch of things that are small, like just 1 or 2 lines. Write a bunch of things that are a medium length, maybe 5 or 6 or 7 lines, a couple of paragraphs, and then write a couple of long versions of what your sales message is and why people should buy your product. Why should you do that? Because as you go around the web trying to sell your product, trying to place it in different places around the web, be it Facebook, be it Google, be it your own website, be it on somebody's blog, be it wherever, you will find that you need text. You need to keep regurgitating all the time this message about your product. And after a while, you'll become very blasé about it, because you know your product, you know why people should buy it. And you just fall into this sort of blasé thing about it, and you kind of forget that you need to be selling it all of the time. But if you have these little bits of your own swipe files, if you like, so this is swiping your own information that you have pre-created, you will find that your life is much easier. So go and do that. That is it's a really good tip, actually. I need to do it myself a lot more often. The other thing to think about, of course, with anything like this is your ideal customer. That shouldn't be a surprise to you. Now, I've got a thing here in my presentation notes to ask you if you have any questions. However, I know that Simon is going to be a reasonable distance behind me, so he may not be able to see if there are any questions. I should have said earlier, if you do have any questions, I believe there's a little question and answer widget or app. I think it's on the right-hand side, and it's got a little group of squares. Grid. Sorry, someone's calling it a grid. It's got a little grid, and you can click on it, and one of the apps will say Q&A. You click on that, and it'll pull a Q&A down to the right-hand side of the screen. And if you have any questions, put them in there. So I'll say that now. I'll go on, but if you have any questions, put them in there. I'll stop again when I've got notes to stop in a couple of minutes. And if there are any in there, we'll have a whack at answering them as well. Okay, next we're going to talk about email. Excuse me. So email really is an oldie but a goodie. It's one of the simplest things but it really is, the money is in the list. It's an old saying, but it is so relevant. It could be the simplest thing that you do, your email. There's so many stories, and we've had it ourselves where we've needed some extra money for a big bill that's come in, and at the time we had 7,000 people on our quilting list, and so we just sent them an email. We sent them an email offering them a special deal on a particular quilting product, because we expanded the business beyond just one book. And we were able to raise enough funds to pay that bill. And that was because we had an email list that we nurtured and that we kept them happy. So it is actually a really good idea. If you already have an existing customer base, say that the digital product that you have created is relevant to a customer list that you already have, then that is the first place that you can go to sell this new product of yours. This new digital how-to product is directly into your existing list. Okay. So what if you don't already have that existing list? Because one of the things with people who have an existing list is those people already know, like, and trust you. Okay, they've already purchased something from you, and hopefully the product they purchased from you was something that they liked. So they will hopefully be in the future prepared to purchase something else from you. But if you don't already have a list, what are you going to do to grow one? So we'll touch on that in the next slide, the how slide. Well, first of all, before we touch on the how to get some people on the list, what I would like to talk about briefly is that you should be sending, say, 3 to 4 emails to your list. If you've got that list of already existing customers, excuse me, you need to take the copy that you've written in the first couple of slides and thought about, and tell them about your new how-to product. Don't keep it a secret, because one of the best kept secrets is that you have this most fantastic product that's going to really serve your community in some way, and the worst thing that you can do is not tell anyone about it. And that is such a common thing. It might seem like the simplest thing in the world to do, but it is very common. People do not open the door. Sometimes they think that their product's not ready and they wait for it to be perfect. The truth is it won't be. So you need to get it out there. So if you have this email list, I would suggest that you prepare 3 to 4 emails that go out a few days apart, that share with your existing list the fantastic thing that is your new product and exactly what it's going to do for them. So what the benefits are. And you can also encourage them to share that email around to other people, because often when people are in a particular community, they know lots of other people in the community, hence it's a community. Some people who have not yet perhaps connected with you, and that's a great way to move your message around by other people recommending you, is a really good way. So what if you don't already have a list, or you don't have any way to put new people on your existing list, i.e. you don't have something on your website mostly. Many people that I've come across in the past do have a bit of an email list, but they're just their customers who have purchased something from them, often in the real world. So what we want to do is find a way online that you can start building your list. And it's as simple as using one of the email programs like Aweber or MailChimp, and there are a bunch of other ones as well, and putting an email collecting form, if you like. We call it an email form on your website. But it's not quite as simple as that. You need to give people a reason to give you their email address. In this day and age, we all get way too much email. Mostly it's spam. So give them a reason. Maybe you could get them to sign up for a small course, which is free, that comes out in their emails for the next 5 days. Maybe you could do a white paper about something that's relevant to the community. It doesn't really matter. Just something that you know that they'll be interested in, that you can create or point them in the direction of, that doesn't take you a huge amount of time either, but has value to them. You'll find that if you can do that, that you'll get people onto your list on a regular basis. The other thing is, once you have you have an account at one of those email programs like Aweber or MailChimp, these email websites, they can give you a link that you can put somewhere like on your Facebook page as well, and you can get people to sign up there too. So there's heaps of other ways that you can get people to sign up to your email list. So the thing with this email list is that, once you've built it, it's actually a little bit like putting a savings account, having a savings account in the bank, because in the future, as I described earlier, you'll be able to go to that list and share with them any future things that you're creating for that community. It's a much quicker way to market, and especially if you keep your email list fresh and happy with you, then you'll be able to sell things to them at any time in the future that you need to. So it's definitely worth thinking not just about building a list, but about keeping them happy. And you do that by providing them with some fantastic content over the next, however many number of years that you want your business to continue. Now, has anybody put any questions up? I've got that again on my little notes here. I'll just get Simon to check. Doesn't have to be about email, of course. It could be questions about anything we've touched on. No, that's fine. Okay, let's move on to SEO. This is when we've done lots of live workshops. I've often found myself turning to Simon to explain some of this, because search engine optimization is really the geeky end of online marketing in many ways, but it is actually quite simple, and it's simple and complex at the same time. You don't need a degree to understand it, and I will explain it to you a little bit more in a minute. Sometimes there's some things you need to do on your website which need a little bit more of a tech understanding, but it's still, again, not beyond you at all, especially, excuse me, sneezing. Especially if you're doing things the right way, you'll find that SEO can be a little lifesaver for you. And it literally is search engine optimization. If you say it slowly enough to yourself, the explanation for what it is will reveal itself, which is what I found with a lot of the English language. So it's basically optimizing your website for the search engine. So when Jane Smith or John Smith come along and they search for your product in Google, having never heard of you or know of you before, they just search for the kind of product that you are selling, your digital product, that your website will come up somewhere high in the search results and have a much higher chance of being clicked on by Jane Smith or John Smith. That's all search engine optimization is about. In my workshops in the real world, I've often described it as looking at what Google's job is, which is basically to give as much quality information to people who use Google to search the web. Google's job is to make sure that those searchers get exactly what they're looking for as close as possible. And over the years, Google's tried very, very hard, and they change their algorithm on a regular basis in order to refine it and make sure that the people who search on Google do get what they're looking for. Therefore, our job is to give Google what they want, because we are serving the same customers. So it's quite a simple sort of calculation, if you like. Google's job is to serve up the best content based on the search terms provided by the customer, and our job is to provide Google with as much information as possible on our website as to what our websites are about, so that our websites will show up when they are relevant to the particular searches. That is as simple as it is. Now, I would often use this example, which is quite a clear example as to what search engine optimization is all about, and why that understanding the keywords or the key phrases that your potential customers or clients use is so important. So a client of ours in Tasmania, he sells heat pumps, we call them in Tasmania. So they sit in your house, but they are actually reverse cycle air conditioners. So in summer, they keep your house cool, and in winter, they keep your house hot. Now, his website was all about reverse cycle air conditioning, because as a rule, the majority of Australia calls these devices reverse cycle air conditioners. And they would call them that because mostly the rest of Australia is hot all the time. So they're actually more interested in the cooling factor than they are about the heating factor. However, in Tasmania, it's not hot all the time. In fact, it can get quite cold in winter. So most people who buy these devices for their house call them heat pumps. Now, this person's website was all like the words all over it were reverse cycle engineering, reverse cycle air conditioning, and that not once did he mention heat pumps, not once. So when anybody in Tasmania searched for his website under heat pumps, it didn't turn up. So, you know, all his competitors got these customers instead. So once we went in and changed that, he suddenly had a business that actually worked for the community. So although it's just a story about him not really understanding what his community was doing online, like how they were relating to Google. And if he'd done just a little bit of research like we did in the first workshop, he would have understood that. Luckily, we did some for him and now he's very happy. So let's move on to the how you're going to do your search engine optimization. Again, do you remember looking at the Google Keyword Planner? That's in workshop number 1. Not going to give you a massive refresher, but if you go and Google Keyword Planner, you will find it. And there, Google has provided a tool to its people who do the advertising in Google to find out exactly how many people are searching for particular keywords and key phrases. And you can also say where in the world they are as well. And there's a whole bunch of other parameters you can put in. So it's quite a powerful tool, but it means that you can be marketing with some sure understanding. And you can put that information into your website in a way that Google will understand, in a search engine optimized way, if you like. So as I said, it is a very complicated area. It has actually become a bit of a science. They teach it in all sorts of places like universities now. It's tricky because it does change on a regular basis. You know, we talk about Google all the time. It is not the only search engine on the planet. However, it is the biggest search engine by a long way. Got something like 70% of the market, and the rest of that market is chopped up amongst the other players like Bing and Yahoo. And the truth is, if you do well on Google, you'll do well on the other platforms as well anyway. Google does change its algorithms on a regular basis in order to refine and get better and better at what it does. But the very basics always stay the same. And so when I'm going to tell you what you need to do when it comes to your actual website, these things will never change. These things are the solid way to make sure that your website will come up in a reasonable place anyway for any particular keyword or key phrase that you have identified as a popular one for the people who are searching for your particular product. So you'll need to put that keyword or key phrase in your URL, so in your domain name. Preferably it's actually before the .com or before the .com.au or the .co.uk or whatever you're ending in. But of course that's not always going to be possible. So most websites these days are made in a way where the domain name is what we call search engine friendly. So it'll be, say my website was called michellefrost.com. Then I can have a page on my website which is all about my new product. Maybe my new product is just called new product. So it would go / new product. And maybe I decided that the keyword or that what most people are going to search for is new product. Then that would be a good example of a way where I have actually got my keywords in the URL being new product. So I hope that hasn't made you too confused. Probably wasn't the best example, but getting those keywords or key phrases up there on that in the URL title in some ways are a really good idea. And one of the biggest pointers for Google. The other place is the page title. Now that's not necessarily something that you can see with human eyes. It's something that sits in the background of the website. But whenever if you're putting any content onto a website, you should be able to influence what the title of a particular page on your website is. And every page on your website can have a different title. As web developers in the past, one of the things we've seen is the occasions where every page on a website, even being hundreds of pages long, is the same title. That is not a very good search engine optimization technique, okay? Every page on your website has a purpose, and every page on your website should have a different title, which is focused at different keywords or key phrases as well. So that's your title. Then you've got image names. Again, that is something that people miss out almost on a regular basis, is making sure that the images are named appropriately, again with keywords and key phrases if possible. So when it comes to image names, there's one thing, when the image leaves your computer, then it's got a name.jpg. you can make sure that that name, even before it leaves the computer, is accurate. So it has to be accurate for the image. Don't get me wrong, you shouldn't just have, your keyword might be dog training, because you have a product on dog training, but if the picture is of a rollerblade, for some reason, a rollerblade, then it would be a wrong idea to have that picture titled dog training, but actually be of something completely different. And I'll explain to you why that is. The Google Image Bank, Google Image Search, which most people have done in the past. If they haven't, if you have not, then go and get a teenager. They'll be able to teach you how to search for images on Google. That's how Google decides what images to put in there. Now, if your image shows up a lot for dog training, but no one ever clicks on it, mostly because the image has nothing to do with dog training but was a rollerblade, then it has a small mark against your website. So it actually goes anti-search engine optimization, if you like. So it's a really good idea. So to name your images correctly, there is two places to name them. One is, as I said, before they leave your computer, so the .jpeg or the .png or whatever other image format you're using. So that name, if that can be a keyword or key phrase, that's great. So you upload it to your website, and then when you upload it to your website, you should be given another option to name the image again, and that's another place. So that you need to name the images. So there's two ways to name it. Many people don't bother to do it as it's leaving the computer, but if you can, that is the optimal thing to do. So that's images. Now there's the headings on your website or on your page. They're the ones you actually see. Most websites give you the ability to say this bit of text is actually a heading. So you can select it and say this is a heading 1, a heading 2, a heading 3. Again, there's a science behind it. I think Simon will tell you that each page should only have one heading 1, but can have multiple of the other types of headings. Your headings should again have the keyword phrase or title, a keyword phrase or keywords in it. And you can have obviously multiple headings, but if you're doing it right, only one heading 1 in any page. And then there's just the general text. So making sure that the text that you use on a page is relevant to the keywords or key phrases that people are searching for. It isn't actually rocket science. And if you were really thinking about everything you would do, you'd probably do most of these things without even having to think about it, without even ever having to know about search engine optimization. As long as you'd done that keyword research in the past, then you knew who your customers and clients were and how they moved around the web and what they thought about and how they searched, then all of this stuff would probably come naturally to you anyway. And Google has a thing called a latent semantic indexing. And that just means that if you have a website that's all about coffee and you mention beans and grinding, then on a page, then Google knows that coffee, beans and grinding are actually all related, even though it's not the exact same keyword or key phrase. So again, keep that in mind when you're preparing your sales copy for search engine optimization purposes. Now, I'm not sure if you've got any more questions. I should ask again because that's what I've been doing just to make sure. No, that's fine. Excellent. I must be being very clear and thorough. That's what we want to hear. Let's move on to pay per click, PPC. This is one of my favorite places, mostly because I'm a very impatient person. And it is a place that you can go and get really quick results. It's great for testing, for example, to see if there's a market for what you're trying to sell. We have touched on it when we were looking at getting our questions to create our product in the first webinar, I think it was. Excuse me. So it's a great place to go. You can target traffic. You can, in the Google part of it, you can target traffic in different areas of the world. You can target different languages, or for the Google one, you're targeting the actual keyword, for example. In both Google and Facebook, which is the only ones we'll talk about today, you can set budgets as well. I'll just have it. Excuse me. And one of the things I do like, and that I heard many, many years ago when it came to paid advertising, if you could actually spend $20 and then make $21 out of that spend of $20, would you not keep doing that over and over again? And really, that's just the 1, 2, 3, the ABC, the what is it, marketing 101, if you like, of advertising. So if you spend $20 and you make $21, then you just keep doing that over and over again. It would just be a rinse and repeat, and you'll forever keep making $1 at a time. Just keep doing it. And really that's what it's about, trying to find that balance and testing to see where it suits. Now, what about the how? How are you going to do this? Well, we've got Google AdWords. I will talk about that a little bit. As I said, there is a budget way. You can send people, excuse me, you can use a budget, and the budget might be set at $5 or $10 a day, depending on how much money you want to spend, or any, $100 a day if you want to, especially if you've come across some good keywords or key phrases that are really relevant to your product or service and people are actually buying. They're good buying keywords, which is something you should also think about. Google's AdWords is actually based on keywords or key phrases, so you bid on the keyword or the key phrase. There are lots of things that happen in there. It's not just who bids the highest money gets up the highest in the advertising platform. It's also about relevance, so not just relevance of your ad, but relevance of the page that people are going to land on to buy your product. There's a whole lot of other things that Google look at when it comes to deciding how much you should pay per click every time somebody clicks on your ad. You can target with the Google advertising platform, which is awesome. You can target geography, you can target obviously keywords, you can even target different behaviors as well. There's an option to do click per million views too. So rather than per click, it would be per million views, which is a different way to do it. I prefer pay per click myself. Then there's also a bunch of other options which we won't go into, including banner advertising, advertising on their content network, which means everywhere where you see a Google ad, and you actually see them all over the place, not just in Google search. I won't go into that at the moment though, but there are other options. There's also a thing called remarketing that I wanted to touch on, because a few years ago it was a bit of voodoo, and nowadays it's become pretty much commonplace. It is when you see those people following you around, or those ads following you around on the web, and you have access to that, by the way. So you put a little bit of a pixel on your website, so a tiny little thing that nobody can see, a little bit of code that sits in the background, and every time somebody comes to visit your website, their computer gets cookied, and then the next time that they go and land on other websites that Google advertises on, Google has the option to put your ad. Say if you were doing some advertising in the Google AdWords platform and you were using what we call remarketing, Google would be able to place your ad on this other website, but these people are only seeing it because they've been to your website in the past, so they're a lot more likely to buy because they're already familiar with your product. So I hope that makes sense. You've probably noticed it yourself. A lot of tourism operators in particular, I notice, because we're looking for accommodation and things like that, they seem to follow me around the web. So it's quite funny. So that's Google AdWords. It is where we first started. When we first started, I think you could get a click for something like 3 cents, and it made a fantastic place to be. But these days, we see really competitive areas like insurance and health, for example, where there's lots of money to be made. A click might cost you, $100. It can be quite expensive. So, however, in saying that, the sort of things that we're talking about here, you'd probably be able to get a click for 50, 60 cents, and depending on what it is you're selling and how much you're selling it for, and how much you have a budget for, it may well be worth your while to go after it. Not to mention there's lots of techniques that can get that down a lot as well, which we can go into if anybody here wants to express an interest in us providing a bit of training in that. There's quite a few things that you can do to use Google AdWords in a cheaper way. Let's move on and have a quick chat about Facebook. So Facebook, again, is quite similar to Google in that you can set a budget. There's lots of targeting. However, the targeting is different. You're not targeting keywords per se. You tend to be targeting hobbies, for example, or pages that people have liked. You can even target if people are single, if they're, for me, say I can target people who are about to travel, who've put somewhere on Facebook they're about to travel in the next month, or I can target people who've just come back from a big trip, for example. So there's a whole lot of things you can do. One of the things I like about the Facebook advertising platform is that I can go in and even put all those things in and see the audience will change, how many people that I'm going to attract will actually change on the site, which is really cool. So I can actually see how many people I will be targeting with my ad. So I really like that option. I don't even have to put an ad up in order for me to see that happen. I can just go in and fiddle around and then just cancel the ad, not send it out. So that's really cool. You can get a thing called a lookalike audience, which I, again, really like. So if you have an email list, as we talked about earlier, for example, I think it works on phone numbers as well and a couple of other ways, but you can upload the email list to Facebook. What they will do is run off and find out how many people have signed up to their Facebook account using that email address. And most people have only one email address. They're not like us online marketers who have hundreds, and they often only use that one email address. So once you've found them, say these are people who already know, like, and trust you, they've already bought from you in the past. So the reason it's called a lookalike audience is what Facebook will do for you is go and look at all the attributes of those people. Okay, so they go and work out who they are in Facebook. Then they go, okay, these people like this, this, and this, and they are friends with that person, whatever, and they create what's called a look-alike audience. So they're not the people who already know, like, and trust you, but they are a very similar audience. So in that way, it can be a great way to advertise to them. So you can then go and set your ad up in Facebook and have only that look-alike audience see that ad. Okay, so I hope you can understand the power of that. I got very excited when I first heard about that. The other thing about the Facebook advertising is that it is pay per click or pay per million views, a lot like the Google. And again, they have a remarketing option. So you can set up on your website, put a little pixel, a little bit of code on your website, and when people go to visit your website, they will then start finding that you're advertising to them on Facebook as well. So you can then set up your Facebook campaign to go out to people who have been to your website in the past. So again, it can be a great way to remind people about your products and services when they're inside Facebook. All right, so that is a bunch of stuff about pay per click, both in Google and Facebook. I will ask Simon if there's any more questions or not, and then we'll move on to community. No questions? No? Good, excellent. That's what I like, quiet audience. Okay, we're going to move on to community. Excuse me. Now, community is really important. Again, we talked about that in workshop 2. Especially for your longevity in business and the security of your business online. In workshop 2, we talked about the fact that people can come along and steal your content. That is true, but if you have built a community of people who know, like, and trust you, where your business is actually wrapped around you a lot more, that is not something that people can steal. Okay, so that's why it's a great thing for your security and also for the longevity. It's like having your email list that you can then send any future products that you create in that community. You can send it out to your email list. So having a community is similar to having an email list, in that there's a group of people that you already hang out with online, and they do respect what you do, and they're really interested when you provide new stuff to them. So as long as you're providing, obviously, benefit and things like that, because they know, like, and trust you, it's all about building relationships and, to a degree, making yourself a market leader in that particular area. Now, how do you do that? That's a really good question. You can create a Facebook group, and you can encourage people to join them. And how do you do that? Well, you do that by telling them, again, what they're going to get out of it, what the benefits are. Is there something starting to click here? We're right back into copy again, and knowing who your client is, because that's really, really important. One thing I will say when you have a community that's following you is that you need to try and stay positive and to help your flock, if you like, as much as possible. And if you can be a part of the wider community in this area, then that's a really good idea as well. So it's not just sort of all the stuff directly from you. I would be asking questions all the time. Well, I try to, and see how you can help the community more. Ask them, what do they want? What do they need from you? And how you can help them. And you'll also find, well, we've done in the past, that there'll be some people in the community that will stand up and want to be part of organising and managing the community with you. And that can be really good too, once your community sort of gets a life of its own, so to speak, that you'll get these advocates that will help you in the community. And look out for those. I've seen that's happened for us, and I've seen it happen to other people as well in the past. So that's a great thing in a community, when it sort of takes on a life of its own, if you like, and develops its own identity. So, excuse me. So I would still, though, create Facebook pages, and wanted to touch on that briefly. It used to be the go-to thing when it came to how to sell your things on social media. There's been a lot of talk about Facebook pages dying a little bit. However, when it comes to selling things, if you have a Facebook page, although Facebook is really annoying and will not show your Facebook page to everyone anymore, by having that Facebook page, you have the ability to advertise directly to those people. If you go back to the pay-per-click in Facebook, it actually gives you the ability to advertise directly to them. So I would still have a Facebook page if I was you, if you're selling products online. And I would still encourage people to like that Facebook page, just because, you know, they put their hand up and said, yes, I want to hear from you. So then when you do create some kind of advertising campaign in Facebook, it's not like seeing it in their feeds will be something they're not expecting to see. Unfortunately, they may not see what you normally put up in Facebook on the page because of the way Facebook works these days. And instead, you'd have to boost some of the posts that you want to get to be seen more widely. Also, think about places like Pinterest and Instagram and Twitter and blogs. Again, it really depends on who your ideal customer is. Where do they hang out? What do they like? Are they very image focused? In which case, they may well be more on Pinterest and Instagram. Pinterest tends to lean more towards women as well, for example. So just depending on where your community hangout would depend on where you might want to set a community up and grow that community based on that. So, don't try and do something completely different. If you tried to set up a knitting circle inside LinkedIn, it may not be successful. You might be much better to do that in Pinterest, for example. So that's probably a very good example of how to set up, or where not to set up an example. A community. All right. I won't even bother asking if there's any more questions at the moment. We will move on because I'm getting a little bit behind time. Now, getting paid. This is something I almost left out of here, which I can't believe when I first created this workshop. Getting paid. The easiest way to get paid is PayPal. Now, I have heard many people say that, what about those people who don't have a PayPal account? Well, PayPal do allow you to use PayPal even without an account. You don't have to create one. It's just usually a little link that's near the PayPal. Once they click on a button on your website, they end up in PayPal, and there's a little link that says, oh, I have a question, a simple question. Hold on a tick, I will get back into how you get some money in a minute. Sif says, I am making a Facebook or Google ad or asking someone to do it for me. How do I know how big it should be? The ads and Facebook. That's a very good question, Sif. If you're asking someone to do it, number one, they should know. And number two, inside the Facebook and the Google ad platforms, it actually tells you. And I think when I was in Canva the other day, I'm pretty sure that was one of the parameters that was set up inside Canva. When you create your images, there was one of the ones you could choose. I think was Facebook advertising, and the other one was Google advertising. But what I will do is take that on advisement and go and Google it, because that's one of the things I'm really good at, and find out exactly for you, because I tend to just do it based on as needed basis as I'm putting them up myself. So I will go and find that out for you and put it in the Facebook group. Right. Thank you for the question, Sif. That is awesome. So back to PayPal and how you're going to get paid. So getting paid with PayPal, again, as I said, is really, really simple. You can go into PayPal once you have your own account and create a button, and you put that button on your website. It can be as simple as that. And when you create the button inside PayPal, you say, once somebody has provided the money, please send them to this link. And that link that you send them to is the download link for your digital product. That's how it is actually very, very easy to do. If you need any help, ask in the Facebook group and we'll give you some help. The other thing with the PayPal, as I sort of touched on a minute ago, is that even if you don't have a PayPal account, you can still use the PayPal system. So if you potentially have a lot of customers that don't want to have a PayPal account, that shouldn't preclude you from using PayPal. As you may know, the quilting community in the past wasn't all that tech savvy, and the idea of opening a PayPal account was quite foreign to many of my customers. And so they often would use the function of just being able to put their credit card details in on the outside of like using PayPal, but it's on the outside of having an account. And I'm pretty sure that is still possible. They don't make it all that obvious, but there is a link in there that allows you to do that. And you don't have to do anything. That's just on the page that PayPal provides to put the details in. One of the other places you can use is Stripe. Then there's another one called Braintree. It's a newish one. And then there's ClickBank, which is particularly for digital products. It is a place where it's a bit like a marketplace for digital products. So you can go in and list your digital product there, and people can use either the ClickBank online payment system, or they can use PayPal if they have PayPal. So there's actually a few places like that, but ClickBank would be the best known. And one of the good things about ClickBank is that other people go there in order to sell your product. So they want to be affiliates. So you can set your product up within ClickBank and have other people sell it for, say, 50% or whatever commission you choose. So ClickBank can be quite a good place if you have a digital product. And just because you have your product in ClickBank doesn't mean you can't have it elsewhere either. You can also, if you have a real world business, you can also use your existing bank too, but we've often found that the fees involved in doing so can be a little bit expensive to use their online payment processor. So there's lots of ways to get paid. Don't let it stress you out. I remember that was one of the things that I used to stay awake at night before I finally did it. Once you go through the steps, you'll find it's really not that difficult. Once you've done it once, it's just like a rinse and repeat. But before that, it can be a little bit, it seems like magic, but it works. It's easy, I promise. Again, come into the Facebook group if you're not sure, and we can help you out. Now, this is the most important slide for me. Pardon? This is the most important slide. What I want you to do is make your sale. Go and make your sale. You've done all the research. You've created a product that people have told you that they wanted. Now I want you to go and sell it. You need to believe in it. You need to follow the steps. You've done everything you can to ensure that it will be successful. There is nothing better than getting that first email to say that you've sold your first product. And I really want that for you. So I really want you to hurry up and go and make your first sale, because it will give you so much more confidence. And once you've learned how to do it once, it's just a rinse and repeat. Okay, I'm serious. Now, before I go on to the next bit, because we're almost finished now, sorry, I have a bit of a tickle. If you're interested in working with us, we do have a coaching program, and at the moment, because we're running through this series, we have a special offer where instead of it being $147 a month, it's only $147 for 3 months. Our coaching club is based on a question and answer call every 2 weeks. So if you sign up for 3 months for the $147, you actually get 6 calls or 6 opportunities to ask your questions. What we've found is it's been a great way to get people from even not having a product to actually making their first sale in that 3 months, because they've got the support of us holding their hand as they go along. If you want to take up this opportunity, then the link is actually there on the screen. You just need to go to that particular page. If you want, I can put the link up in the Facebook group as well, if it makes it easier for you. And then there's a special code that you put in, which is 341, and you'll get the special deal, which is just 147 for 3 months, which gives you 6 calls, as I said, question and answer calls. One of the beauties of a question and answer coaching club, we've found, is that you not only get to ask your own questions, but you get to hear other people's questions. And those other people's questions tend to be questions that you're going to come across. You may not think it now, but we've found in the past, in the question and answer coaching clubs we've belonged to, that we've got the most out of other people's questions, actually, not even the answers to our own. So there were things we didn't even know that we needed to know until we heard the answers, or we heard the questions and then the answers. So it can be a really powerful thing to belong to. So we would love to see you there. If you need a hand in getting your digital product online, then come over and join our coaching club, and we will help you rock it all the way to the bank. In the meantime, as I say, and Simon is sick of me saying, I did want to say thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for being part of this series. Just in the process of turning it into a whole bunch of other amazing training that we're developing, and to change just what we're doing online so that we can give even more and help even more people to, take off around the world if that's what they want to do, or it could be anything else. Just for people to make more choices, have more choices in their lives, rather than living a life where they wish that one day they'll be able to do something. We want people to be able to start doing what they want now instead of waiting. And the best way to do that is often with what we think, with a digital product or a digital service or a digital something, because at least you could be anywhere in the world as long as you have an internet connection. So with that said, I am going to be off to Italy for 10 months, as I touched on a moment ago. We're really looking forward to that, and we're looking forward to the exciting new programs that are going to run once we're out in Italy as well. So hopefully this has helped you, and I can see you somewhere out in the world, and it's going to give you more freedom in your life. And I will see you soon. Again, thank you so much for being here. And I really want to see you over in the Facebook group, in the Boldly Different Facebook group. All right, I'm going to sign off now because I think we've just clicked over to our hour. I will see you soon. I hope this has helped. Again, come and have a chat. We want to meet up. All right, thanks so much. Bye. A live goodbye.